be doing the enemy AI. So just to recap on what has been done, like in the last stream. So the last stream created like a few layers and yeah, did this UI thing where you can like collect coins, and we can go to the next stage as well, and it will display, and then we can go to the last stage, and the last stage once we complete it, it will go to you win. Very simple interface. In fact, in this singletons here, I mean, we can even copy and paste the coins into the others in the other levels. Just paste this here. Maybe I'll paste another one just to grab it up here. I don't know where would be good. Here. Here. Yeah. And in level 3 we could put the singletons here. Maybe put another row here just to add some variety. Okay, so let's try it out. We should be able to see like the coins get eaten up as we move. Okay, I see the sprite sheet has this line at the top, which is not exactly that great. Yeah, maybe we need to find better sprite sheets for the coins. So now, yeah, super slippery movements. Yeah, I think it's fine. I probably need to do something to cancel out this. This is very irritating. When you bump into this object, yeah, I wonder if there's a way to like make the force after upon contact. Actually, yeah, there's a way. Yeah, if you set once we hit spring the x velocity to be 0. Okay, let's try. Let's try this. Yeah, it's very irritating. See, you just press the mouse button and it comes like that. Okay, but for now, I'm just interested to see whether I can. Okay, let's say I collect one coin and I die. Oops. Okay, it looks like it's not exactly doing the right thing. So if we die, we don't want to destroy the singleton. So let me try to see whether we can change it. Okay, let's go to scripts, singleton. I don't think the issue lies with this. Maybe it's under player. So there are a few things I'd like to fix first before I go to the AI. First is when we lose a life. So it's under game manager. When we lose life, um, destroy game object, destroy singleton, and reload the scene if it's 0. Else, we just load scene again. Okay, and then our singleton here should still be here. Still be there. Okay, let's see what's happening. Okay, let's not enlarge it. I want to see whether is it 2 singletons or what that is happening, because it's supposed to do not have the coin there after you die. Okay, see, you collect 1 coin. Okay, there's this singleton here. That all these coins are not singletons in the level 2. Okay, so that's the problem. Easily solved. Problem easily solved. Yeah, the issue was that I didn't put the coins in the singleton game object. So let me do that now. Drag it into singletons. Okay, done. Let's see at the level 3 I did the same mistake. Yes. So we need to put all this thing under singletons for it to be a singleton. So yeah, like level 1. Okay, now let's try. So when we collect the coin should disappear, and update our score. Yes, okay, it's happening. Right. Oh, awesome. Okay, so now I collect. I noticed another thing. So when we enter these coins at the top, apparently it lost quite a bit of momentum when you hit the collider here. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the is circle collider to be a trigger. Okay. So one implication for this is that in the player we cannot use on collision enter 2D anymore, but we have to use the other one for the trigger. Void on trigger enter 2D, and then this will be a collider to the other. Okay, and the same thing if other, so these coins I'll put it here. Okay, because now coins are a trigger so that, okay, so that it does not affect the, when you land on the coin itself, I don't want the player to lose velocity, yeah, which is what was happening just now. So let's try again. So when I land on the coin, it should be a smooth motion right now to collect it. Point. Oh. Okay, okay. Did I forget to update my prefab? Yeah, not, yeah, I didn't update my prefab. Hence, the coin did not apply universally. So let's try that again. Let's try that again. Nothing to worry about. Point. Yes. Okay, done. Okay, that's exactly the effect that I'd like to achieve. Point. Point. Okay, very good. Looks good. So collecting the coin does not affect the velocity, and then it disappears after going. Okay, good. Okay, so the next thing that need to do is these the springs. The springs basically needs to be done so that once I collide with it, I lose all my x velocity. Okay, because this is what's happening now. When I run into the spring, look at this unsightly effects. Look, now, unless your game is going for this vibration thing, if not, it's not very nice, right? I feel it's not very nice. So maybe once here, other dot game object dot tag equals to bouncy, okay, lose x velocity. Okay, then I'll have a here void lose x velocity. Okay, so the rigid body velocity is here. My rigid dot velocity equals to, so in order to make it lose the x velocity is basically just make it 0. And then to get the y velocity, you can just go to my rigid dot velocity dot y. Yeah, so this makes it lose its x velocity just with one sentence like this. Okay, so one thing we need to do is we need to add the bouncy to the tag for the grid here. So we add tag, quite bouncy. It needs to be exactly the same as how we call it inside the script. If not, it wouldn't work. So we call it bouncy here. And this should be exactly the same as this bouncy over here. So we have a bouncy, tag it, tag, all right, tag. Right? I should probably like do it as a prefab, but I just get if I do it as a prefab, okay, it will affect what I painted on it. So I'm trying not to use prefabs for this as of now. Just add in the bouncy layer. So it'll be good if the mechanics of the game could be designed at start already. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so it is definitely colliding with this. But it is not exactly going into a zero velocity. It's like, as though as it doesn't change actually. Maybe it's the collision detection. Okay, to be sure whether this is being activated, let me just print over here. Yeah. Okay, let me just print out this and to see whether the collision with the spring has been detected. Okay, so that we don't do have this backwards effect. It is updating. Let's see the player velocity. Hmm. Another way is to add some friction to the because of the I guess it's because of the bouncy material. Yeah, the bouncy material made it bounce back more, even though it's sideways. So perhaps what can be done is I wonder if there's a way to restrict the bounciness to the center. So mm, yeah, because the bounciness only applies to this. Yeah, maybe instead of it having a material that is bouncy, okay, let's just remove the material and I see whether the bounce effect is still there. Okay, because if it bounces sideways, so without the bouncy material is fine. So I don't have to do this x velocity thing. It's not the issue. The issue was with the bounciness. Okay, the issue was really with the bounciness. Uh, what I need to do is instead change the way the jump works for the bouncy layer in order to prevent that awkward jump there from happening. So it could be the case that once you touch the bouncy layer, okay, if you come from the top, then you will jump upwards. So yeah, okay. Let's try coding this. Okay, so okay, and then it must be jumping. Okay, if my rigid dot velocity dot y, okay, if it's greater than or smaller than zero, which means it's dropping down. Okay, then what we do is we will make it my rigid dot velocity equals to new vector 2. Okay, so here we add the jump velocity. Okay, we just do a normal jump, I guess. Later I'll configure this. Yeah. Right now, what's my walk speed and my move speed? It's 27 and 15. Let's just put this here. Maybe here we make it a bit higher. Yeah, the spring should be able to jump higher. Okay, so jump velocity and then my rigid dot velocity dot x, the same x movement, but we give it a jump. Okay, let's see whether this works. Just fixing some issues with the jump first before I do the enemy AI. So yeah, it doesn't have this bouncy thing anymore. Okay, so apparently this is not triggered. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I'm going to trigger the jump animation here. And I like to see whether there's a trigger in the console. So whenever the velocity is smaller than zero for the Y, for the player, it's going to trigger something in the console. So it's not showing. It's not showing. So okay, let's see why it is not showing. So maybe we just put here print hello, so we know that it's touching. Maybe we print the hello inside here. Okay, and over here we print the my rigid dot velocity dot y. Now we just want to know what's the y velocity when you touch the spring, and then we just print out. Okay, let's see what happens. 0. Okay, 0. It's also 0 when you touch the spring from above. Okay, when you jump with the jump speed here. So maybe this is also wrong. Yeah, should be the other way around. Okay, when you jump, you don't have a velocity. Why don't you have a velocity? Everyone needs to have a velocity when you jump down. Yeah, so we try to figure this out. Something interesting for me. Why is there no velocity for this? Maybe let's just print this out in update. Let's see what's the issue here. Let's see what's the issue here. There is definitely something to do with the velocity. Cannot be. Okay, let's see what the velocity is normally. So we just take a look. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Oh, so it's only updated at the start. It doesn't care. Okay, so very simple. Unity, how to check if game object is falling. Okay, it doesn't really help. This doesn't really help. Let's move it away. Okay, so it's weird. Okay, so you see there's a negative velocity here. Let's just clear all of them again. Hmm. Okay, let's say I jump now. Jump. Yeah, there's negative velocity. There's a case where it's negative velocity, but somehow once you touch the game object or bouncy, okay, you lose all the velocity, which is weird, very very weird. Unless I set it to be a trigger. Yeah, maybe I set this to be a trigger. Yeah. It might be because after it collided with the thing, then it loses its velocity. So maybe it could be better as a trigger, I guess. I don't know. I mean, just trying trying things out. Okay, let's try making this a trigger. Okay, and then maybe if the velocity is smaller than 0.01, let's just put it a small number because I saw here it can go until -10, which is not what we want. Okay, we don't want it to be walking and then being able to. Yeah, okay, done. Yeah, setting it to be a trigger sort of works. So now there's this although there's this weird thing that happens when you can go in front of the spring, but I think overall it's okay. I mean, it really depends on what the spring layer is doing. I'm just glad that it's no longer, doing the awkward movement that, that make the player. Okay, yeah, I think all is good. Yeah. Jump height for the spring maybe a little too much. Let's just change that. So the jump velocity maybe 35, slightly more than the spring, but not so high. Yeah, maybe try 35. See whether it works. Yeah, okay, looks good. For the spring, looks good for the spring point. And then now it's you can go in front of the spring. So yeah, this looks good. Looks quite nice actually. I mean, although I quite like using the bouncy physics material, but the bounce was irritating for the site. Yeah. Yay! Look at that. Okay, so I think we are good to go to create the enemy AI. Okay, this one let's delete this. Okay, now enemy AI. Let's firstly create our enemy. All right. We'll create a sprite that contains the enemy, and this is in the project. The images, we find a nice sprite for the enemy. I think they provide enemies here in this sprite sheet. Just need to find it. Is this supposed to be an enemy? No, that's a towel. Yeah, let's take a look at the whole towel spec. Oh no, it doesn't look like there's an enemy in this tile spec. I guess, let's just use one of the symbols as enemy. Maybe this button up down could be an enemy. Or we can be a little innovative and just treat this sequence of red stuff here as the enemy. Now it will look really ugly. Yeah. Now maybe just for illustration, I'll just look between this box, this one, and this one as the enemy, this tree here, until I find better sprites. If not, the enemy will just be a loop between these three sprites here. Yeah, I think I will need to get more better sprites to make it look nicer. So we create an animation here. We call this enemy walk. Okay, the enemy only has one animation, which is the walk. We create a new animation controller, and then we call this enemy walk. We do a loop time because the enemy will keep walking. We just put this, open the enemy controller, drop it in, and there we go. Easy. So now what we need to do is we need to create a sprite sheet. Okay, just do any sprite. Call this like enemy. Okay, drag the enemy controller inside here, inside this enemy itself. Okay, why can't I put the enemy controller inside? Okay, never mind. I'll just put the animator. Then we can drag the controller here. Okay, the sprite for the enemy will just be this innocent looking square. Is that brown square? Yeah, this one. So this will be our enemy. Okay, as of now, the enemy doesn't have any colliders or anything. I'm just putting the enemy here to see. It looks rather crude, I guess. I mean, why is the enemy a towel? Okay, so it looks like it's flowing, which is great. So let's just make the samples maybe about two, so that it like alternates between the frames. Okay, so there's some animation there, animation going in the enemy, so we can see that enemy has an animation. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, looks good. Okay, now we add a rigid body. Okay, first we add the tag maybe. We add the tag called hazard because the enemy is a hazard. Then what we do is we will basically, okay, maybe we add this as enemy because I later on when we want to shoot the enemy, I don't want the hazard to be shot and destroyed instead. So we call this the enemy. Okay, and then the collider, we can have a box collider to tell you what is the danger area. Okay, in addition, okay, we're gonna add something to detect in the forward part. Okay, what is the okay? We just add in maybe a capsule collider 2D. It's basically just to see in the forward part what is the whether there's any like hazards or anything. We're just gonna put the capsule collider in front here, so tell the enemy when to turn. So like this capsule collider will be a trigger. Okay, so let's just put this as trigger, but the box collider will not be a trigger. The box collider will enable it to interact with the ground. So let's take a look. So now the player cannot move this. Okay, the rigid body for this enemy, okay, we can set it to be, oh, I didn't add a rigid body. Let's put a rigid body 2D. It can be a dynamic rigid body. Okay, just you can let it be affected by physics, by gravity. Yeah. Basically when the player touches the enemy, the game is over, so it's fine. So I guess for the rigid body, we should have it doing a continuous update as well, because the enemy can actually go through see the walls. Yeah, let's have the enemy update being a continuous enemy update. Yeah, so now it won't go through the wall anymore. So now I need the enemy to sort of move. So let's create a script for the enemy, and then we get it to move. All right, let's get this going. So to get the enemy to move, it's actually pretty simple. So like for the player to move, it's here. Rigid velocity equals to this walk speed. So we could just do that. So we could have a rigid body 2D my rigid. Okay, it's also called my rigid. At the start, we do my rigid equals to get component. Okay, rigid body 2D. Okay, is that the correct way to spell it? Okay, there's no capital B, it's just small letter b, so like that. Then my rigid velocity equals to, so this one will be the public variable, or this will be the private variables, and then we will have some public variables. Okay, then we can have like public floats, walk speed, maybe the speed will be a bit slower than the player. Yeah, okay, let's just see whether having this script in the enemy makes it already move forward. So the name x delta does not exist. So what was my x delta? Oh, okay. So in this case, we don't need the x delta. Okay, the x delta was just to check whether move forward or backwards. Yeah, I want the enemy to now move forward. Okay, we will do the flipping of the enemy later. But as of now, we just want the enemy to move forward. So let's do that. Let's put the enemy script here. Okay, let's take a look. The enemy should now move forward. Okay, got stuck. Yeah, it feels like the is moving definitely. Maybe maybe the enemy is too huge. Let's scale it down to 0.7 so that it has a better chance of passing through the wall. Let's take a look. I'm not sure if I want the enemy to rotate so much, so let's freeze the rotation here. And maybe the move speed is also a little too fast. Let's make it 2. Unless we're going for those enemy where the enemy can really run and charge really fast. If not, I think, yeah, this speed looks great. Okay, so what I need to do now is once the player collides with enemy, you will die. So you can do it here. Yeah, so this is how. So whenever I touch the enemy now, I would probably die. So we can test it out. Point. Yep, very good. I died. Okay, so there needs to be a way to flip this enemy here. Okay, so let's just see if I can do a very quick one. So it's like that. Void on trigger exit 2D. Okay, so when the trigger gets out of, because right now the trigger is on the ground here, when the trigger gets out of the ground to another block, okay, like on the platform, once it gets out, okay, it's supposed to basically change the direction. Okay, so maybe we, yeah, like that. So maybe we could have a private variable in direction equals to 1, like that. And then we should flip the player also. So in order to flip, we should flip the enemy. We should flip it by using local scale. Okay, so in the enemy here, we could have this also. Or we could do it directly in the update equals to. Yeah, so we keep the local scale x and y. Okay, and then we multiply it by a direction. So we should do the absolute value of this x multiplied by this direction. So if everything will be controlled by the direction. Let's see whether this works. Okay, actually once I do by transform local scale, I'm just wondering whether or not the collider will flip. So let's take a look. Okay, it does. So that's great. Okay, let's see whether this works. So it's supposed to flip whenever it exits the. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Hmm. Why is it exiting on the bouncy layer though? This is a Oh, because the bouncy layer is a trigger as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, so basically if other dot game object dot tag, so we remove the bouncy layer. Okay, return. Okay, we don't do anything. Okay, if interacted with bouncy, do not do anything. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it's not supposed to cause this issue anymore. Let's take a look. Yeah, so basically when the enemy reaches the edge of the wall, okay, it will turn back. So let's take a look whether this is indeed the case. Oh no. Awesome. Okay, now let's see whether it turns back when it reaches the player. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, so there we have it. The enemy AI is created. We could have an enemy sense the player, and like once in the sense the player states, we could display a different set of animation that charges to the player. So we could do that, and I think we'll do that in the next stream. But for now, it manages to just go left and right in the basic petrol states, and we can add more of this enemy. Okay, let's just make this a prefab. We could add more and more of these enemies. Okay, in the scene. Okay, like this. So let's see. Yeah, we could have it one over here also. So you can see that the enemy itself is everywhere now, and yeah, it makes it hard for the player to. Oh, you see, it interacted with the coins. Okay, so that's a second problem. Yeah, let's just put the collision avoidance here. We can also do it in the layer collision matrix. I think because there's only two interactables right now, I think it's fine to do it here, just in the script. Yeah, it's working well. It has a bit of a sci-fi feel, I guess. We probably need better sprites for the enemy, but yeah, that will be later on. You can even do invisible tiles here, so that'd be quite cool for like Super Mario based game. The enemy actually should appear like at quite a high layer than the coins, yeah. So is there a sorting layer we can do? Okay, if not, actually, yeah, I'll do more of the enemies next time, the states, and yep, that's the end for today's stream, and see ya.